Welcome to Great Books for Great Sleep, where classic literature becomes your pathway to peaceful slumber. As you settle in, we'll journey together through timeless literary masterpieces. Let your body sink into rest as we help quiet your busy mind and create the perfect atmosphere for slumber. Fall asleep knowing you never have to worry about losing your place or missing important details. When you return, our recaps will guide you back into the story. Now release the tensions of your day with each breath. Inhale calm, exhale worry. Your only task now is to rest as we transform literary treasures into your personal lullaby. In our previous episode, while soap boiled in the kitchen, Cassandra eavesdropped on adult gossip about inheritance drama involving her grandfather and a man named Marm Tamor. When her maternal grandfather John visited, Cassandra flat out refused to greet him, sparking serious tension. Then at school, she stirred up trouble on purpose and got expelled. And back at home, after a kitchen spill, her mother scolded both daughters, capping a day of rebellion and reprimand. Cassandra came home from the fields cradling a nest of baby mice, just in time for a formal tea gathering with religious ladies from the village. She donned her best red calico and helped prepare. Veronica, ever the strange sister, whispered about a butterfly from heaven. The guests gossiped about Church and Hepsy Curtis, their soon-to-be cook. After a fight over hidden mice and a murdered butterfly, the evening closed with hymn singing and household tension simmering under the surface. Tonight, the Morgesons moved to a larger seaside home and opened their doors to a swirl of guests. But despite the new space and staff, the household spirals into beautiful, chaotic disorder. A new baby is born, but not everyone is celebrating. As Veronica sinks into illness and strange obsessions, Cassandra watches the family dynamic shift and wonders where she fits now. Now lie back and relax as we dive back in to Elizabeth Stoddard's The Morgesons.
Chapter 5. The next September, we moved. Our new house was large and handsome. On the south side, there was nothing between it and the sea, except a few feet of sand. No tree or shrub intercepted the view. To the eastward, a promontory of rocks jutted into the sea, serving as a pier against the wash of the tide, and adding a picturesqueness to the curve of the beach. On the north side flourished an orchard, which was planted by Grandfather Locke. Looking over the treetops from the upper north windows, one would have had no suspicion of being in the neighbourhood of the sea. From these windows, in winter, we saw the nimbus of the northern light. The darkness of our sky, the stillness of the night, mysteriously reflected the perpetual condition of its own solitary world. In summer, ragged white clouds rose above the horizon, as if they had been torn from the sky of an underworld, to sail up the blue heaven, languish away, or turn livid with thunder, and roll off seaward. Between the orchard and the house, a lawn sloped easterly to the border of a brook, which straggled behind the outhouses into a meadow, and finally lost itself among the rocks on the shore. Up by the lawn, a willow hung over it, and its outer bank was fringed by the tangled wild grape, sweetbriar, and alder bushes. The premises, except on the seaside, were enclosed by a high wall of rough granite. No houses were near us, on either side of the shore. Up the north road they were scattered at intervals. Mother said I must be considered a young lady and should have my own room. Veronica was to have one opposite, divided from it by a wide passage. This passage extended beyond the angle of the stairway and was cut off by a glass door. A wall ran across the lower end of the passage. Half the house was beyond its other side, so that when the door was fastened, Veronica and myself were in a cul-de-sac. The establishment was put on a larger footing. Mrs. Hepsy Curtis was installed mistress of the kitchen. Temperance declared that she could not stand it, that she wasn't a nigger, that she must go, but she had no home and no friends, nothing but a woodlot which was left her by her father, the miller. As the trees thereon grew, promising to make timber, its value increased. At present, her income was limited to the profit from the annual sale of a cord or two of wood. So she stayed on, in spite of Hepsy. There were also 2 men for the garden and stable. A boy was always attached to the house, not the same boy, but a boy dynasty, for as soon as one went another came, who ate a great deal, a crime in Hepsy's eyes, and whose general duty was to carry armfuls of wood, pails of milk or swill, and to shut doors. We had many visitors. Though father had no time to devote to guests, he was continually inviting people for us to entertain, and his invitations were taken as a matter of course, and finally for granted. A rich Morgeson was a new feature in the family annals, and distant relations improved the advantage offered them by coming to spend the summer with us, because their own houses were too hot, or the winter because they were too cold. Infirm old ladies, who were not related to us, but who had nowhere else to visit, came. As his business extended, our visiting list extended. The captains of his ships, whose homes were elsewhere, brought their wives to be inconsolable with us after their departure on their voyages. We had ministers often, who always quarter at the best houses, and chance visitors to dinner and supper, who made our house a way station. There was but small opportunity to cultivate family affinities. They were forever disturbed. Somebody was always sitting in the laps of our lares and penates. Another class of visitors, deserving notice, were those who preferred to occupy the kitchen and back chambers, humbly proud and bashfully arrogant people, who kept their hats and bonnets by them, and small bundles, to delude themselves and us with the idea that they had not come to stay and had no occasion for any attention. These people criticised us with insinuating severity and proposed amendments with unrelenting affability. To this class, Veronica was most attracted. It repelled me. Consequently, she was petted, and I was amiably sneered at. This period of our family life has left small impression of dramatic interest. There was no development of the sentiments, no betrayal of the fluctuations of the passions which must have existed. There was no accident to reveal, no coincidence to surprise us. Hidden among the powers that be, which rule New England, lurks the deity of the illicit. This deity never obtained sovereignty in the atmosphere where the Morgesons lived. Instead of the impression which my after experience suggests to me to seek, I recall arrivals and departures, an eternal smell of cookery, a perpetual changing of beds, and the small talk of vacant minds. Despite the rigours of Hepsy in the kitchen and the careful supervision of Temperance, there was little systematic housekeeping. Mother had severe turns of planning and making rules, falling upon us in whirlwinds of reform, shortly allowing the band of habit to snap back, and we resumed our former condition. She had no assistance from father in her ideas of change. It was enough for him to know that he had built a good house to shelter us, and to order the best that could be bought for us to eat and to wear. He liked, when he went where there were fine shops, to buy and bring home handsome shawls, bonnets and dresses, wholly unsuited in general to the style and taste of each of us, but much handsomer than were needful for Surrey. They answered, however, as patterns for the plainer materials of our neighbours. He also bought books for us, recommended by their covers or the opinion of the bookseller. His failing was to buy an immense quantity of everything he fancied. "I shall never have to buy this thing again," he would say. "Let us have enough." Veronica and I grew up ignorant of practical or economical ways. We never saw money, never went shopping. Mother was indifferent in regard to much of the business of ordinary life, which children are taught to understand. Father and mother both stopped at the same point with us, but for a different reason. Father, because he saw nothing beyond the material, and mother, because her spiritual insight was confused and perplexing. But whatever a household may be, the destinies spin the web to their will, put of the threads which drop hither and thither, floating in its atmosphere, white, black, or grey. From the time we moved, however, we were a stirring, cheerful family, independent of each other, but spite of our desultory tastes, mutual habits were formed. When the want of society was felt, we sought the dining room, sure of meeting others with the same want. This room was large and central, connecting with the halls, kitchen, and mother's room. It was a caravansary where people dropped in and out on their way to some other place. Our most public moments were during mealtime. It was known that father was at home at breakfast and supper and could be consulted. As he was away at our noonday dinner, generally we were the least disturbed then, and it was a lawless, irregular, and unceremonious affair. Mother established her armchair here, and a stand for her work basket. Hepsy and Temperance were at hand. The men came for orders, and it was convenient for the boy to transmit the local intelligence it was his vocation to collect. The windows commanded a view of the sea, the best in the house. This prospect served mother for exercise. Her eyes roved over it when she wanted a little out-of-doors life. If she desired more variety, which was seldom, she went to the kitchen. After we moved, she grew averse to leaving the house, except to go to church. She never quitted the dining room after our supper till bedtime, because father rarely came from Milford, where he went on bank days, and indeed almost every other day, till late, and she liked to be by him while he ate his supper and smoked a cigar. All except Veronica frequented this room, but she was not missed or inquired for. She liked the parlour because the piano was there. As soon as father had bought it, she astonished us by a persistent fingering of the keys, which produced a feeble melody. She soon played all the airs she had heard. When I saw what she could do, I refused to take music lessons, for while I was trying to learn the White Cockade, she pushed me away, played it, and made variations upon it. I pounded the keys with my fist by way of a farewell and told her she should have the piano for her own. Chapter 6. One winter morning before daylight, Veronica came to my room and asked me if I had heard any walking about the house during the night. She had, and was going to inquire about it. She soon returned with, "You have a brother. Temperance says my nose is broken. He will be like you, I suppose, and have everything he asks for. I don't care for him, but," crying out with passion, "Get up. Mother wants to see you, I know." I dressed quickly and went downstairs with a feeling of indignation that such an event should have happened without my knowledge. There was an unwanted hush. A bright fire was burning on the dining room hearth, the lamps were still lighted, and father was by the fire, smoking in a meditative manner. He put out his hand, which I did not take, and said, "Do you like his name, Arthur?" "Yes," I mumbled, as I passed him, and went to the kitchen, where Hepsy and Temperance were superintending the steeping of certain aromatic herbs, which stood round the fire in silver porringers and earthen pitchers. "Another Morgesons come," said Temperance. "There's enough of them, such as they are, not but what they are good enough," correcting herself hastily. "Go into your mother's room softly," said Hepsy, rubbing her fingers against her thumb, her habit when she was in a tranquil frame of mind. "You are mighty glad, Hepsy," said Temperance. "Loch Morgeson ought to have a son," she replied, "to leave his money to." "I vow," answered Temperance, "girls are thought nothing of in this Liggers section. They may go to the poorhouse as long as the sons have plenty." An uncommon fit or shyness seized me, mixed with a feeling of dread, as I crept into the room where Mother was. My eyes first fell upon an elderly woman who wore a long, wide black apron, whose strings girded the middle of her cushion-like form. She was taking snuff. It was the widow Mehitable Allen, a lady whom I had often seen in other houses on similar occasions. "Shoo!" she whispered nasally. I was arrested, but turned my eyes toward Mother. Hers were closed. Presently she murmured, "Thank God," opened them, and saw me. A smile lighted her pale countenance. "Cassie, my darling, kiss me. I am glad it is not a woman." As I returned her kiss, her glance dropped on a small bunch by her side, which Mehitable took and deftly unrolled, informing me as she did so that it was a rouser. Aunt Mercy came the next day. She had not paid us a visit in a long time, being confined at home with the care of her father, Grandfather Warren. She took charge of Veronica and me, if taking charge means a series of guerrilla skirmishes on both sides. I soon discovered, however, that she was prone to laughter, and that I could provoke it. We got on better after that discovery, but Veronica, disdaining artifice, was very cross with her. Aunt Mercy had a spark of fun in her composition, which was not quite crushed out by her religious education. She frequented the church oftener than Mother, sang more hymns, attended all the anniversary celebrations, but she had no dreams, no enthusiasm. Her religion had levelled all needs and all aspirations. What the day brought forth answered her. She inspired me with a secret pity, for I knew she carried in her bosom the knowledge that she was an old maid. Before Mother left her room, Veronica was taken ill and was not convalescent till spring. Delicacy of constitution, the doctor called her disorder. She had no strength, no appetite, and looked more elfish than ever. She would not stay in bed and could not sit up, so Father had a chair made for her in which she could recline comfortably. Aunt Mercy put her in it every morning and took her out every evening. My presence irritated her, so I visited her but seldom. She said I looked so well, it hurt her, and wished me to keep out of her sight, begged me never to talk loud in the vicinity of her room. My voice was so breezy. She amused herself in her own strange way. One of her amusements was to cut off her hair, lock by lock, and cut it short before she was well enough to walk about. She played on a harmonica and on a little fife when her breath permitted, and invented grotesque costumes out of bits of silk and lace. Temperance was much engaged, at her dictation, in the composition of elaborate dishes, which she rarely ate, but forced Temperance to. She was more patient with her than any other person. With us, she was excessively high-tempered, especially with Father. She could not bear to catch a glimpse of the sea, nor to hear it. If she heard it echoing in the house, she played on her fife or juice harp, or asked Aunt Mercy to sing some old song. But she liked the view from the north windows, even when the boughs were bare and the fields barren. When the grass came, she ordered handfuls to be brought her and put in saucers of water. With the coming of the blossoms, she began to mend. As for me, I was as much an animal as ever, robust in health, inattentive, and seeking excitement and exhilaration. I went everywhere, to Bible class, to Sunday school, and to every funeral which took place within our precincts. But I never looked upon the dead. Perhaps that sight would have marred the slumberous security which possessed me, the instinctive faith in the durability of my own powers of life. But a change was approaching. Aunt Mercy considered my present state a hopeless one. She was outside the orbit of the family planet and saw the tendency of its revolutions, perceiving that father and mother were absorbed in their individual affairs. She called Mother's attention to my non-improvement and proposed that I should return to Barmouth with her for a year and become a pupil in a young ladies' school, which had been recently established there by a graduate of the Ipswich Female Seminary, a school distinguished for its ethics. Mother looked astonished when she heard this proposal. "What?" she began with vehemence. "Shall I subject?" But checked herself when she caught my eye and continued more calmly. "We will decide soon." It was decided that I should go without my being consulted in the matter. I felt resentful against Mother and could not understand till afterward why she had consented to the plan. It was because she wished me to comprehend the influences of her early life and learn some of the lessons she had been taught. At first, Father poohed at the plan, but finally said it was a good place to tame me. When Veronica heard that I was going, she told me that I would be stifled if I lived at Grandfather Warren's, but added that the plums in his garden were good and advised me to sit on the Yellowstone doorstep under which the toads lived. She also informed me that she was glad of it and hoped I would stay forever. To Barmouth I went, and in May entered Miss Black's genteel school. Miss Black had a conviction that her vocation was teaching. Necessity did not compel it, for she was connected with one of the richest families in Barmouth. At the end of the week, my curiosity regarding my new position was quenched, and I dropped into the depths of my first wretchedness. I frantically demanded of father, who had stopped to see me on his way to Milford, to be taken home. He firmly resisted me. Once a month I should go home and spend a Sunday, if I chose, and he would come to Barmouth every week. My agitation and despair clouded his face for a moment, then it cleared, and pinching my chin he said, "Why don't you look like your mother?" "But she is like her mother," said Aunt Mercy. "Well, Cassie, goodbye." And he gave me a kiss with cruel nonchalance. I knew my year must be stayed out,